speculation regarding the Chiefs and the Eagles and the matchup that it's been anticipated to be. But unfortunately, there's a conspiracy out there that many people believe, including commentators, including pundits, and a lot of announcers out there, that the Kansas City Chiefs get preferential calls and they get a lot of beneficial whistles from the NFL referee committees, okay? And I normally don't talk about stuff like this, but we are in the Super Bowl and they are playing the Eagles, so this does affect what the Eagles may or may not do going into this game. But I'm going to try to dispel the notion that there is a conspiracy, because I don't necessarily believe there is a conspiracy regarding the Chiefs and the referees. I don't want to make that an excuse for the Philadelphia Eagles if they somehow find a way to lose this game. There's no need to have an excuse like we did in 57, which was pathetic, where they talked about, oh, the field was slippery, like the other team wasn't on the same field, talking about the referees and a lot of, it's bullshit to blame a referee for the outcome of a game. Give me a break. Kansas City is one of the more prepared teams in the National Football League. They have one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play, one of the greatest coaches of all time, one of the greatest tight ends to ever play, one of the greatest defensive players in Chris Jones we've ever seen. And they're reliant on the beneficial calls that they get from referees. I find that to be silly. I do. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And people are going to point to a lot of instances in which ticky-tack calls go the Kansas City Chiefs' way. A week and a half ago, the Buffalo Bills went for it on 4th down on a QB sneak, which they suck at, by the way. They ended up not getting the first down. It was called short, and then the Chiefs scored on their next drive. And people think that Josh Allen got the first down when he didn't, by the way. Another person will look at some of the calls that happened in Super Bowl in 2020 against the 49ers the first go-around. Nicky Bosa was held on a play when he threw the ball up to Tyreek Hill. They're going to look at last year where they saw a regular season game with the New York Jets, and Jermaine Johnson was held on a play where Mahomes scrambled, got a first down, and basically iced the game. They're going to look at a lot of the times that Jawan Taylor gets a false start for getting that quick jump start to get an extra step so a pass rusher can't hit the quarterback. A lot of instances, and they're going to look at what happened in the Texans game where the late hits and the, getting close to the sideline and Mahomes flopping, all that jazz. They're going to point to the referees and say, see? They got them in their pocket too. Again, I don't think that's a thing. I really don't. I don't think the NFL is out there conspiring against the rest of the NFL in hopes the Chiefs would win the game. Makes no sense to me. And we're going to get into a few reasons why. But before we do that, I need to introduce the show. This is the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. I am Asif Badi, and like you, I am an Eagles fan who talks about the birds, only the birds, and nothing but the Philadelphia Eagles. So please do us a favor. Help us grow the channel by giving this video a thumbs up, commenting your thoughts, and subscribing to the channel. It'll help me get out to as many Eagle fans out there on the World Wide Web. Also, check us out on audio platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and leave a 5-star review to help me get out to as many people out there as well. And listen, I ask you this because it doesn't cost you a damn thing. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe. So please do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button and support the channel. We'd really appreciate it and appreciate your support. So help a brother out. Hit that like button. Why the Kansas City Chiefs do not have a conspiracy? Why the NFL? There is no conspiracy going on here. Listen, there's an article out there on NBC written by the author, or written by the columnist, rather, or, whoever the writer is, David K. Lee. And he talks about some of the calls that the Kansas City Chiefs have gotten over the years. And I'm going to fuel the fire a little bit. Okay? I'm going to kind of put some air into this thing. The Kansas City Chiefs this year have been one of the least penalized teams in the National Football League. I think they were flagged, let's see, I'm looking at this, 94 times for 829 yards. That's one of the bottom teams in the NFL. 11th from the bottom in terms of yardage. 4th fewest penalties in the NFL at 94 flags. Now, again, I mentioned some of the moments before, like Josh Allen's quarterback sneak, not being called the first down, Nick Bosa being held in the Super Bowl on that Tyreek Hill play. The Jets game last season in the regular season where Jermaine Johnson got held and Mahomes scampered for a first down. The Houston Texans playoff game, the late hits on the sideline, the flopping on the sideline, plays like that, the sliding where he slid late and the two defenders hit each other and they still threw the flag. Those types of calls, I get it. And it's frustrating to see those at times. But understand that NFL superstars get preferential treatment. They're going to get calls. It's like any other sport, okay? Jordan got calls, LeBron got calls, and Kobe. I mean, like, everybody gets calls in different leagues. I'm sure in baseball, which I don't watch, by the way, because I think it objectively stinks, okay? And it's boring. And I don't care if you don't like that I don't like baseball. It stinks. But I'm going to assume that star hitters, star players, or star pitchers get the benefit of the doubt at times on certain umpires. Maybe the strike zone's a little bit different for each guy. Who knows, right? Probably the same in hockey. It's obviously the same in basketball. And in football, the quarterback is going to get the call. And Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. One of the best to ever do it. He's going to get whistles. He's going to get calls. I don't think that's something we need to be upset about. I just think we have to factor it into the equation here. But this notion that there's a conspiracy about the team in general makes no sense, especially when the Philadelphia Eagles have been beneficial from lack thereof of certain calls. In Super Bowl 57, Nick Bolton had a fumble recovery taken back to the house. There was a holding penalty on that play too. Touchdown got taken back when there was really no penalty at all. Yeah, everyone looks at the James Bradbury play in that game, and they're saying, I wouldn't have thrown that flag. And listen, I wouldn't have thrown that flag either. I don't think referees should interject themselves in the game. I think it's bad for the sport. However, when there's a penalty out there and they call it, and you look at the replay and you see that there's a holding, that's it. Got held. The penalty is the penalty. Half the time, people complain about the Chiefs' playoff penalties and the penalties that they receive. They're legit penalties. The PI call against the Bengals, that was a PI. Right? Like in this past regular season, we saw these games come down to the wire. You're gonna get calls go the opposite. Like, bad calls are gonna happen. Saquon Barkley held Frankie Louvu on the 4th and 5 in the Commanders game where Jalen Hurts hits A.J. Brown on the 31-yard go route. Nobody talks about that. Now, is that the reason the Commanders lost the game? No. Just like the penalties that you get in Kansas City Chiefs games don't cost you the game. The Buffalo defense could have stopped Kansas City from scoring that touchdown after the failed 4th down conversion. Tell Josh Allen had the ball again to go ahead and take the lead, and he couldn't cash in on the deal. Teams have opportunities to go ahead and beat this team. You got to go out there and do it, and you got to earn it. The Kansas City Chiefs are just one of the more prepared teams in the National Football League. Like I said, they have one of the best coaches in the NFL, one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL, one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play, one of the greatest tight ends to ever play the game. We are not going to sit here and say to ourselves, the Chiefs won this game because the referees were on their side. And listen, I get it. You're a fan. Everyone looking is going to look at these big-time games for the Kansas City Chiefs and say, well, damn, they get every freaking call at times. It always seems like it just seems to fall the Chiefs' way. And I'm not going to sit here and dismiss it either, because there are times where I think Patrick Mahomes in particular gets the benefit of a whistle, but not the Kansas City Chiefs as a whole. Don't get it twisted. Everyone's going to look at how Jalen Carter gets held every play. Well, that happens all the time. I'm sure they say the same thing about Chris Jones. The referees are not going to be the reason we win or lose this game, okay? I want to get that clear. But, and this is going to be one of my final points. Sorry, I have to drink this tea. It's fantastic. I will say this just to play a little bit of devil's advocate, okay? And I know you're going to, you're going to find it dismissive of what I just said here, but regardless, I will say, if the referees allow these guys to play and they don't blow their whistle often, they really just let these teams try to figure it out on the field and let the outcome of the game settle itself, I see no reason why the Philadelphia Eagles can't win this game or shouldn't win this game. Like I am confident they can go out there and beat this football team. I think they're better top to bottom outside of quarterback and head coach and a few key players. I think the Philadelphia Eagles are better than them. Genuinely do. If the referees are going to be ticky-tack and they're going to get involved in the game and interject themselves, that just helps Kansas City because objectively they're the less talented team. Simple as that. Okay? So in that sense, I understand. You don't want to be the NFL and Roger Goodell and have a week of questions leading up to this game, and then this game comes down to one team getting all the penalties and one team receiving the benefits of them. You definitely don't want that to happen. And lastly, I'll say this to put the final icing on the cake here. I want you to just listen to this premise because Chris Sims brought this up, and I know I fucking hate that guy. Every Eagle fan hates that guy. But he brings up a solid point. For anyone who thinks the Kansas City Chiefs are out here getting conspiracy calls from referees, are you trying to suggest that a league, the National Football League, who every single year fans complain about whether or not these referees know what an NFL catches, a fundamental play in every level of football, the NFL struggles to figure out what a catch is? Are you trying to tell me that the inept NFL referee committee is somehow in lockstep and coordinated enough throughout the league to be able to complete and conduct and orchestrate a league-wide conspiracy that has the Chiefs get the benefit of every call? I find it hard to believe. How about you just acknowledge that sometimes teams are great, just like the Eagles have the chance to prove that they're great. We have the better roster. We have the better team. I think we got better players from top to bottom. The only places that the Kansas City Chiefs have the edge at are quarterback, defensive tackle and Chris Jones, head coach, DC. I mean, there's only a few positions here, albeit important ones, that the Chiefs are better than the Eagles at. Let's not leave it up to the excuses for the referees that they are going to be the reasons we potentially lose the game. Philadelphia should not lose this game. As great as the Kansas City Chiefs are, they are not benefiting from referee calls. They're just better than half the teams that play them. Get over it. It is what it is. Just like Philadelphia was better than half the teams that they played this year. Get over it. There's no conspiracy with the referees. We get beneficial calls too. It happens. It's human error. It's the referees in the NFL. They make bad calls sometimes. It is what it is. But that's not an excuse. Just like the field won't be an excuse. Just like the running game won't be an excuse. There's no excuse in this game, guys. You have to go out there and prove that you're better than the Kansas City Chiefs. That's going to be what determines the outcome of the game. And lastly, I'll say this. Again, just to add fuel to the fire, because this is going to be controversial if it somehow ends this way. After a week of questioning Roger Goodell, Kansas City Chiefs players, and NFL referees, if somehow this game comes down to a play that's 50-50 and questionable in any way and not definitively clear, and it somehow goes the Chiefs' way, it is going to start a whole firestorm in the NFL community, the fans, and everybody on social media and pundits. And because of that, will the NFL referees hold their whistle just a little bit longer? Will they be more scared to give that call or to make a call on the field? Or will they really let them play? And I've said it before. If the referees are even a little hesitant about blowing the whistle and they let these teams play the game, I think Philadelphia is going to win this game hands down. But again, if a ticky-tack call somehow goes into the Chiefs' favor, it will not slow down the firestorm that the Kansas City Chiefs and the referees are in cahoots. Whether you believe it or not, that's going to be the story from this game. And it's going to be a damn shame. Because if they somehow win because of these referee calls, the NFL is going to have a really, really big problem going forward. Hey! Thank you so much for watching the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. If you want to continue to support the channel, please hit the like and subscribe button down below. Also, check us out on Instagram and TikTok at Riding the Bench Eagles Pod. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're on there. Thank you so much for listening, and please join us next time here at the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast.